Hello, listeners. This is Debbie Melnyk here with my colleagues, Dr. Jeffrey Rich, Sherry White, and Jana Eller. This is session 8 of our 8 Project Pathway series of milestone classes. Our last session focused on the business strategy milestones. So for specialty care, these are milestone numbers 18, 20, and 21. For primary care, they are numbers 23, 25, and 26. The milestones are identical between specialty and primary care. They just have different numbers. So let's get moving. Assuming my computer will advance. Okay, so as you recall, there are 22 milestones for specialty practices, 27 for primary care. The scores on each milestone determine phase completion, and the one milestone may show up in more than one phase, just with a different score required to complete that phase. We've held 8 classes. Today is the 8th, and you can see them all titled here, including which milestones they address. The recordings for each of these are available on VCSQI.org, as well as the links to them are included in the Monday updates that come to all of you from Jana Eller. So today's objectives are 5 in number: to review the scoring for these business strategy related milestones, to outline the strategies for meeting each of these milestones, to review the relevance of the milestone scores to phases and to the MIPS cost measures, and to provide a brief overview of alternative payment models prior then to opening it up for discussion. Again, by way of reminder, I want to make sure you understand where we are getting these strategies from. By now, you each should have a transformation work plan unique to your practice and based on your practice assessment tool scores. In the tab called Practice Plan, the milestones that you have not yet scored a 3 on will be listed, including the description of your score. In this case, the sample shows a 0, and then what needs to happen in order to complete the score for that phase. Over here in column H, where the far right arrow is pointing, is the link to the driver and change package, which actually takes you to this tab down here where the lower red arrow is. And it then lists in that area that you get to the strategies you can consider and select from in order to raise your score for that milestone. Okay, so the first milestone we're going to look at is number 18 for specialty care, number 23 for primary care. This milestone expects that the practice uses sound business practices, including budget management and ROI, return on investment calculations. A score of 3 is needed to complete phase 2. So this is an early milestone to address. You see the differences in the scores from 0, where a practice operates strictly on a cash basis, balancing revenue and expenses regularly, but not really having an annual budget or prospectively developing budgets to consider how changes might be made. 1, there's an annual operating budget, but the practice level does not regularly do a variance analysis or make adjustments. A 2, the annual budget is reviewed regularly to understand variances against what was projected. And a 3, the practice consistently uses sound business practices, including calculating return on investments when considering decisions on new programs. So strategies from the change package 3.1.1. There are 2 slides actually that list several activities you may consider using to get to a score of 3. Now, all of these listed, you don't have to do all of these, but you can select from them. That will then assure that you really are reviewing your budget regularly, making adjustments as necessary when variance shows up, and doing a return, calculating a return on investment when you're considering perhaps a new piece of capital equipment for your office or a new program. Including your staff, training your staff will be important, really, not only on this milestone, but the next one, so that your staff are involved and understand the importance of monitoring the budget for the practice. Here's some additional ones, including being transparent with the entire team. Now, this doesn't mean, showing everyone's salaries and all of that, but it's giving your staff an opportunity to really understand the dollars associated with running a practice, both the expenses as well as revenue. Return on investment. Return on investment actually is pretty straightforward when it comes to what it means in basic terms. Return on investment is suggesting that you want to evaluate the expense of the investment against the value and subsequent return on that investment. So these links here will provide you a little more information on what it means, some templates for how you might calculate it, and understand it more generally if return on investment is a new concept or activity for your practice. I'm going to show you more references after we go through the other two milestones, because several of the references will help with each of these three milestones. So milestone 20, or 25 for primary care, expects that the practice shares financial data in a transparent manner within the practice and has developed the business capabilities to use business practices and tools to analyze and document the value the organization brings to various types of alternative payment models. So on that point, let me just make mention of the fact that the 2018 MIPS categories now include cost. So all of these milestones are relevant to the cost measures, in that you really need to get a feel and a better handle on how the practice is spending money, and both money coming in and money going out, because they will, those processes, those sound business models and financial analysis will very likely have impact on the two cost measures that are calculated as part of MIPS now. In addition, one of the key goals of the Transforming Clinical Practice initiative that you are all a part of is to prepare you to become part of an alternative payment model, a truly value-based practice, high quality, low cost, patient and family-centered care. So this particular milestone then, the scores range from a 0, where the practice or the system you're a part of has not developed a business acumen in the various types of alternative payment models. Financial skills development is very limited to the finance staff. And you can see as you move through the scoring, at a score of 3, you are sharing financial data in a transparent manner within the practice and has developed business capabilities to use practices and tools to analyze and document the value that your practice is bringing to various types of alternative payment models. We're going to talk about APMs in a little bit. So, documenting the value the practice would bring to an alternative payment model. That's sort of the key here. And to be able to do that, you have to be understanding your business's financial status, data, and sharing it within the practice, so all the staff are contributing to cost-saving efforts and perhaps revenue-generating activities as well. So, strategies here. Conduct business fundamentals training as a lunch and learn session. Make sure budget preparation occurs at the level the costs are incurred, share financial implications of care decisions, share prices charged for various services, dedicate a meeting to explaining the practice's financial statements. So most of the practices that we've been working with do hold staff meetings. So in this case, you might want to make the agenda for one staff meeting lunch and learn session, conducting some business fundamentals training, showing some financial statements, whether they're the practices right off the bat or maybe a sample one. You can, decide on yourself or decide by yourself. So this diagram lists things that contribute to a financial statement, and there's much more about these three squares in a document that you'll see in a future slide. But the three main components of a financial statement include the balance sheet, which shows the practice's assets, liabilities, and equity as of a specific report date. The income statement, or profit and loss statement as it's sometimes called, shows how the net income of the practice is arrived at over a stated reporting period. It includes revenues, expenses, gains, and losses. And the cash flow statement shows the inflow and outflow of cash caused by the practice's financial activities over a stated reporting period. It's the financial statement that shows how changes in the balance sheet accounts and income affect cash and breaks the analysis down to operating, investing, and financing activities. So it can get very complicated, or you can present it quite simply. And as I said, this document that I'll show you in an upcoming slide would be a good place to start to determine to what extent you want to train the staff in your practice on financial statements and financial the financial situation of your practice and where they may contribute to making it as positive a situation as possible. So the last milestone for today is number 21 or 26 for primary care. And this one, the practice considers itself ready for migrating into an alternative-based payment arrangement. So most of you who were part of PQRS and even MIPS last year were already at a 1 because those were kind of basic types of programs that were focused on performance-based incentives. To score a 3, we would expect that the practice feels it is ready, confident that it's ready for leaving the MIPS payment model and migrating into an alternative payment approach. So strategies here, again, are focused on analyzing your internal costs of care by service and population characteristics. This is the looking at what it is costing you to provide a certain type of service for certain types of patients. Using external benchmarks to compare your internal cost and revenue metrics, such as cost per visit and revenue per provider full-time equivalent. And determining profitability by site and service. So this is a document that I mentioned earlier. Medical practice finances, it's where that little diagram with the 3 components of a financial analysis came from. It's from BDO, and the link to this full document is at the top. It really is a straightforward description of financial statements and other monthly communications that can be used with physicians and staff to ensure, first of all, accurate financial data. So that link at the top will take you to this full document. This is just a paste of the front page. Here's another document from Advisory Publications. And I pasted here the front of the document as well as the table of contents to give you a sense as to what's in it. And this comes from HC Pro. The link to this full document is the title of this slide. And here's another one. This one comes from Modern Medicine Network, the value of lead measures to improve practice performance. And this document describes various financial metrics and the 5 financial ratios that will be helpful for you to understand and know more about in terms of your own practice's performance. Okay, so all 3 of these milestones really speak to getting a handle on your practice's finances. Understanding what they are, getting good data about it, understanding what the measures are telling you, and then making changes to be as efficient and cost-effective as the practice can be. And that often will necessitate staff involvement, not just your clinicians. Why is this important? Well, when you have a better feel for where your costs lie, you can make changes, and ultimately, hopefully your patients are happy, or you're happier with your financial status, plus the data that you are sending to Medicare through claims, the administrative data that are showing your charges and costs, are going to be used to calculate these 2 measures that are now part of MIPS. For 2018, these 2 measures will comprise 10% of your total score that's used to determine your payment adjustment, in this case for 2020. So you can see, and these measures are explained in greater detail including how they're calculated at the link at the top of the slide here. Medicare spending per beneficiary. This evaluates both solo practitioners and groups on your spending efficiency, and especially specialty adjusted to account for your specialty mix. These are done using your episode of care data and the administrative data you are sending through claims. Total per capita cost is a measure where the payment is standardized, annualized, risk adjusted, and specialty adjusted, evaluating the overall efficiency of care provided to your beneficiaries. We don't have time today to get into significant detail on the calculations of these, but I would encourage you to go to this website to understand them better. You can pose questions back to us at that point, and we'll do our best to answer them for you. This link will take you to the fact sheet, which again provides a lot of detail on the cost performance category for 2018 MIPS. So at this point, I'm going to turn the presentation over to my colleague, Dr. Rich, who's going to talk to us about alternative payment models. Dr. Rich?
Sure, thanks, Debbie. So as you know, your choices now going forward with the quality payment program are either to participate in MIPS, or which manages penalties, or to participate in alternative payment models, which manages risks. So the alternative payment model really is an approach that is used to create new and unique ways of paying for the care that you deliver, either through programs that are established by CMS or through ones that you design yourself. Could you scroll down a bit, Debbie? Next slide.
Yeah, that was just a paste of the screen, Jeff. I couldn't scroll down to it unless I go to the link.
Okay, that's fine. So what really is an alternative payment model? So CMMI, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Innovation, put forward this concept that alternative payment models would be used to further physician payment in the future, getting away from fee-for-service and taking your services and putting them into a payment category that's designed to reward value mainly to improve quality and lower costs. So a lot of the APMs include things that involve Medicare shared savings. And that's a concept whereby if you work hard as a physician to improve the quality of care and create savings for the delivery of that care, that you would be able to demonstrate that and then share in the savings of those payments to the patient, either individually or collectively as a population. Next slide. So this is better outlined what it is. Alternative payment models are a bigger universe than advanced alternative payment models. And the difference is which we will see in the next slide, and you don't need to go there, but that alternative payment models often will have upside risk, and advanced alternative payment models are two-sided risk models. So there's definite opportunities for physicians if you develop or participate in an advanced alternative payment model, which has upside risk as well as downside risk. And if you could manage the downside risk of that, and you could then earn bonus payments based on the upside gains there. Next slide. So advanced alternative payment models, next slide. So you get better rewards, and we'll see the taxonomy here pretty soon. Advanced alternative payment models have specific rewards that are built into the model itself, and or ones that you design and build into it. Once you participate in an advanced alternative payment model, and it's either one that's established by CMS or one that you submit to CMMI and get approved through CMMI and then the secretary, you get an automatic 5% lump sum payment. That's in addition to anything else that you can get from a reward by performing well in that model. So it does provide extra incentives, and you have to participate to a sufficient degree in order to participate in those incentives. Next slide. Here's the taxonomy. As you can see, category 1 is what we're used to traditionally, fee for service. There's no link to quality or value. That's what we've been doing for years and years. Category 2 is beginning to move into the pay for performance and pay for reporting to begin with. In 2008, pay for performance to follow that, and now rewards and penalties for performance in category 2D, which is pretty much what MIPS is. You basically are assessed based on your performance, both on a quality scale and cost scale, now 10% of your payment, and you can get rewards or penalties for that performance. Category 3 is the more desirable place that you'd want to end up with your practice. So 3A is upside gain sharing. So you can participate in a plan, for instance, Medicare Shared Savings Program 1, Phase 1, that has only upside gain sharing to it. 1+ has some downside risk, and then if you get into a full 3B, you have upside gain and downside risk, which maximizes your upside gain. So in a 3A, your upside gain is limited because there's no downside risk, but in the 3B, as you get more advanced and are able to manage the downside portion of that, you could have higher gain sharing on the upside, plus the 5% that you already would have achieved by participating in an advanced alternative payment model. Category 4 is population-based medicine, and so that's something that's kind of designed for the future. It's more like an ACO, an ACO-based payment is based on total cost of care for an individual for an entire year. So that's not what we're talking about here. If you're in an ACO, you're already qualified for a 3B, but what we're talking about is someplace short of being participating in an ACO. Next slide. So again, to summarize, if you're not in an APM, you'll be subject to MIPS adjustment. Going forward in the next 5 years, there's a 9% swing, either upside or downside. I like to say that MIPS is basically the sustainable growth rate formula on steroids, because At least with the SGR, there was congressional action that could stop the penalties from coming in, and MIPS that can't. So you're going to compete. It's a rob Peter to pay Paul. You're competing with your colleagues. So it's a budget neutral system for payments for physicians based on performance metrics that you choose, but you're being adhered to. Your performance and your outcomes are adhered to those performance metrics that you choose. If you go into an APM, you can have a MIPS APM, and this gets a little more jumbled here, but a MIPS APM, you still are required to go according to the MIPS adjustments. But if you begin to do downside risk, then you move out of that into an advanced APM. And in that case, you'll get your 5% lump sum bonus plus any rewards that you could achieve by participating in the cost savings and quality improvement initiatives within that. And I believe that's our last slide, Debbie?
Oh.
No, sorry. If you are participating then in summary, and you're excluded from MIPS if you're in a qualifying APM, Advanced Alternative Payment Model, and you get the 5% lump sum bonus, and then you can receive a higher physician fee schedule update as well. So going forward with the quality payment program, there was a small incremental rise in physician payments, but with when you are in an advanced alternative payment model, that's literally double. It's not large amount, but it's something going forward. Next.
Okay, that was the last slide.
For questions, yeah.
Yep. We have Maria, Dr. Ibarra. Do you have any questions at this point? You're both on mute, so I think, go ahead, Maria.
Oh, no, I don't have any questions. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Ibarra?
Well, it could be for Dr. Rich if he's still if he could find for us what CMS is measuring to the for general surgery practice. What is the about cost? What kind of episode they are accounting for cost?
So you're basically what they're counting are the ones that you're submitting claims for, as long as you meet the criteria for volume for those claims. So if you're doing a lot of endoscopic gallbladders, cholecystectomies, then that's what you're going to be held accountable for. If you see one patient with rheumatoid arthritis or gout as a favor, you're not going to be held accountable for that because you don't have the volume requirements. So you pretty much self-determined by your practice patterns what you're going to be held accountable to going forward. So if you're a vascular surgeon, you're doing a lot of carotid endarterectomies, then that's what you'll be held accountable for, as long as you're submitting claims and you meet those volume requirements that Debbie alluded to early in the presentation.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Sherry, did you have anything you wanted to add based on what you're seeing practices do to meet these milestones?
Covered it well. This was one that Dr. Rich actually helped me out a lot with. So I call the expert in this regard.
Okay. I was just going to go back to the 3 milestones. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I hope this was beneficial to you. These are the 3 milestones in particular that are really going to have you complete phase 5 with the APM one, especially the 21 and 26. So thank you again. Thank you, Dr. Rich. And we'll have this recording available for you to listen to again or for others.
All right. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.